I really want to match Islanders with an Islanders hat. I like this Islanders jersey, but I don't have an Islanders hat. And even if I did, it'd probably be a blue one, so I'm going to have to find a black one. But this is Empire, which is Empire State, which is New York. So Empire State, it works. So, reading through comments, and I have to say, man, some of the negative comments are actually, to me, they're funny. So yesterday I did the list of the all hockey guy team and the non hockey guy team, and I said at the start, I picked my favorite player. I picked one from each team, and one of my non favorite players from each team, and then I said, all right, well, if I was putting a team together of guys that I cheer for, here's what it would be, based on those 30 guys from each side. And right away, oh, why don't you have so and so in there? Because he's not my favorite player. It'd be like if I asked Joe K, well, you have your team of favorite players. Where's Crosby? Joe K's response would be, he's rotting in hell. If I asked Knights, who's a Flyers fan, where's Crosby? Rotting in hell. All right. Fair enough. I've always done my best to keep things as unbiased as possible. But I'm a hockey fan, meaning that when I watch games, there's teams I cheer for and teams I don't. And players I cheer for and players I don't. And I have my own reasons. Just like there are people who don't like the players I do, and if they have reasons, they have reasons. If they don't, they don't. My only request on this channel, nay demand, is that there's respectful talk back and forth. And that's it. I don't expect everybody to agree with me. I don't think I'd have a channel that has got any success at all if I didn't have a passion for it. So it is kind of funny to me, and I was thinking, like, all right, well, do all 31 fan bases have a reason to hate me? So let's go through it. Anaheim, I guess so. I'm not a fan of Kessler, Getzlaff, Perry, and just the Ducks in general. They're my least favorite team. That's just how it is. Arizona, well, I do talk a lot about Arizona moving. I do talk a lot about Arizona not getting the fan support, and I come at it from a Canadian perspective, so that I could see how that would be aggravating. Boston fans, I've had Boston fans complain that I'm not a real Boston fan because I don't like Brad Marchand, and because I'm not a huge fan of Don Sweeney. I much prefer Peter Chiarelli. I look at what Edmonton's doing in the playoffs this year, and I go, I'd rather have Peter Chiarelli back in Boston, but that's just me. Buffalo fans certainly could complain that I don't cover Buffalo enough. And, I said things about Evander Kane over the season, and even though he had a very good season, I'm not changing any of the things I said. Calgary fans, well, I'm a Canuck fan, so right there, Calgary fans have a reason to dislike me. And because I don't necessarily fancy their star players ahead of some of the other guys. My favorite Flames are usually the role guys, the guys who aren't forefront, Dougie Hamilton being the exception, because I still am a fan of his from when he was in Boston. Carolina fans could complain I don't cover the team enough, and they're right. I definitely, during the offseason, intend to make sure I'm covering all 30 teams and have everything mapped out so that I know which teams I'm covering which days, and that's how I'm going to do that for those people. Chicago fans are funny. During the season when they were doing really, really well, there was a lot of talk about how they're the greatest and they're going to go back to winning another cup and they're still contenders. And I agreed they were contenders. Now they got swept out of the playoffs. They got destroyed in the first round. That's after last year they lost in the first round to St. Louis, which was seen as an upset because St. Louis, despite having a higher seeding, always struggled against Chicago. So Chicago's kind of on a downswing, and now the talk from a lot of Chicago fans is, well, we've won a lot of cups. 3, yes, and that is a lot. That's a dynasty by today's standards. It doesn't mean I have to cheer for the players. The moment that a guy wins a cup and I go, I like this guy now, he has a cup, I'm on a bandwagon and I'm slitting my own throat here. Colorado. Avs fans could complain that I've complained too much about the Duchesne talk during the season and Landeskog talk, and I've said that Sakic has been asking too much for both players. Well, they're both in Colorado, so either he asked too much or he wasn't that anxious to trade him. It's one or the other. Columbus fans could complain I haven't talked enough about them. During the win streak, I know I did a couple videos on Columbus, and I didn't have any Columbus fans or any Columbus players in my favorite team, really, other than Werenski, who I did put behind Dougie Hamilton, because to me, Werenski's a young kid and Hamilton's older, and Hamilton should be a smarter defenseman. Don't ask Calgary commentators or fans about that right now, though. They may not think he's very smart. Dallas fans could complain that I complain about goaltending too much and not about the defense. The defense is just as bad as the goaltending. Touche. Detroit fans could complain I don't talk about Detroit. There's not a lot to talk about right now. I get asked a lot about Anthony Mantha by Detroit fans. I like Mantha. I don't have a problem with him, but he's not in my favorites. Athanasiou is my favorite Detroit player. He's very exciting to watch, but I'm not a Detroit fan. Edmonton fans could complain that I picked the Ducks to beat them. Maybe I have too many Edmonton jerseys right now, so I'm jinxing them. There's certain things Edmonton fans could complain about. I've tried my best to give them full credit through the whole season. Florida fans have complained that I don't respect Yager enough. It's not as much that I don't respect Yager. It's that I'm old enough to remember when he came into the league in 1990 or 1991. I remember how exciting and how fantastic and how dynamic he was, and I look at him now, and he's not that player. And this is usually when guys will retire. This is usually when that'll happen with the Hall of Famers. They usually don't hold on this long. And I would respect if he retired. So it's not that I'm saying retire, just this is usually when guys go. So that's me. Kings fans could complain that I'm not a fan of the Kings, I guess. Wild fans complained during the year I wasn't giving them enough credit and that they weren't I wasn't seeing them as cup contenders right away, although I did say early in the season they were playing playoff hockey. Between November and March, they forgot how to play it, and now they're out. But, that happens. And that I wasn't giving Mikko Koivu enough credit for his defensive abilities, which I rectified pretty quick. Montreal fans could complain that I don't like Montreal. They'd be right. I don't like Montreal at all. Yeah, I'm just not a Montreal fan. Nashville fans could complain I haven't covered the team enough going into the playoffs, didn't give them enough credit. Absolutely, they'd be correct. Jersey fans, I don't talk enough about Jersey. Islanders fans, I have 3 jerseys and never make videos on the Islanders. Rangers fans, I talk about Shea. I didn't give Lundqvist enough credit when I was talking about clutch goaltenders. Which, I stand by what I said, because I wasn't talking about clutch goaltenders now. I was talking about clutch goaltenders the entire time I've watched hockey, which goes back to 1982. So, I have a lot of guys in mind that a lot of the younger viewers of this channel wouldn't even know anything about, or they'd look at stats, just looking at a book and go, oh, he's crazy. There's certain guys that I know may not have had a great win-loss record in the playoffs, but I would still love to have him as my starting goalie, and that's just me. Ottawa fans, well, where do I start with Ottawa fans? You guys have tons of complaints, or did during the summer. During the summer, there was a lot of complaints about Ottawa fans. Philly, that I don't talk about Philly enough. After I discussed their 10-game winning streak, they missed the playoffs. That was probably my bad. I probably should have ignored it. Pittsburgh, that I picked Washington to win the cup. That I've kind of disregarded the whole Fleury-Murray thing going on in net, because I think Pittsburgh will just figure that out without losing either of them in expansion. St. Louis, I buried him after they traded Shattenkirk. San Jose, well, I'm not a fan of Thornton or Marlowe, and for San Jose fans, that's unthinkable, because they're likable guys. It's the jersey they wear. I'm not a San Jose fan, and they're usually the guys who are knocking out teams that I cheer for or beating up teams that I cheer for. And I dislike that immensely. Tampa, I went against them in the preseason when everybody was saying they were likely Stanley Cup champs, and I said during the summer, picking a team to win a Stanley Cup is really just throwing dice, and you never know. Toronto, well, there's last year's live reaction, which was actually taped to the draft lottery. That was something. And I didn't see them making the playoffs with as little as a month left. I still thought somehow they were going to end up missing the playoffs because they'd have a much more difficult schedule down the stretch than the Islanders or Tampa. And they hung on and kept that playoff spot. Vancouver fans have complained all year that I put the team down. I know during the early parts of the season where they were doing well, and I said, I don't buy it. There were complaints about me not buying it, and that I wasn't a true Canucks fan because I should just support the team no matter what. As long as they're winning, it doesn't matter how. And I said it absolutely matters how. And which didn't make people happy. And I don't think the Sedins are first liners anymore, which is funny because I defend the Sedins. The whole Sedin sister thing, I don't put up with that shit. But at the same time, I say they're not first liners anymore. I try to be down that middle and say, okay, they shouldn't get personally insulted. These guys have done a ton for charity, and they've done a ton for the Canucks as a franchise, and they've been with the team for almost 20 years. They deserve respect for what they've done in the league, but they're not first liners anymore, and the fact that the Canucks were still trying to build around them and get Louis Eriksson to stick with them like this is going to work like it did at a World Championship years back, I just thought it reeked of desperation. Capitals fans are probably mad that I picked them to win the Cup because I'm a jinx. No, Capitals fans, I don't know. I guess you guys could tell me. I've honestly tried to be reasonable with the Caps, and during the year, my dislike of the Capitals has kind of dissipated somewhat. My dislike of Ovechkin's dissipated somewhat. But as they've proven in this year's playoffs, they're currently down 3-2 to Pittsburgh. Pulling for the Caps is just as perilous now as it was in the 80s and early mid-90s. Winnipeg. Winnipeg fans were upset with me because I think that the Winnipeg Jets' first franchise, that history went to Arizona with the Coyotes, and that this is the franchise from Atlanta, and that the franchise owns the records, not the city. The city can remember the records. It's perfectly fine for the city to remember those records and be happy with those records. And you're not going to forget Howard-Chuck and Essenza and all of these players that came through. But, the history of these Winnipeg Jets is the history of the Atlanta Thrashers. It's one and the same. And then Vegas fans are probably mad at me because I forgot them. So, I've been doing Vegas fans. I think one reason Vegas fans may be upset, could be upset, is that I'm ready to say, here, take Kovalchuk. And Kovalchuk isn't exactly known for playoff success, but he can get your team to the playoffs. And I think that as expansion teams go on, of course, that's generated some interest too, in that people are like, oh, that's crazy. He just wants to go to Florida. Okay, fine. Kovalchuk wants to go to Florida. Do the Panthers want him? No. Does Tampa want him? They can't afford him. So Florida's out. Florida's trying to get their shit together, and they got to make sure that they've got enough money to keep that young core together because they believe that they can win with it, and why not? And Kovalchuk's going to want a lot of money, and Tampa doesn't have any money. They're having hard enough time as it is keeping players together. And then he's like, well, maybe I'll go back to New Jersey. After what he did when he walked out the door from Jersey, I have a hard time believing that Jersey's going to talk to him or bring him back. So the only way this works is Jersey signs him and trades him. And I think Kovalchuk will go where he's traded to. I think he'll work with the team on where he's traded. And I think Vegas makes sense because Vegas has no rain. Players are big on having beautiful weather. It's in the desert. It's this beautiful city. It's this wonderful, huge metropolis built in the middle of a wasteland. Good for a family. Vegas is good for a family now. They've built up the city from its old casino days to being a family destination because they make a lot of money off tourists. And it's a city where he could play hockey and be a star and play with good players and at the same time have relative anonymity outside of the arena. Not as much as he would in some other locations, say like Florida, but he would still have some anonymity there. So there you go. 31 franchises, 31 fan bases, and the reasons why I have to go through comments every day. And I admit I kind of snicker sometimes. So thank you very much for the nice comments I receive. If you can think of any other reason why the fan bases of any of the 31 teams would, dislike me, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. Browse around the other videos. I talk about as many teams as I can. But remember, I post 3 to 4 videos a day. And if I dedicate a video to one team, that means that 7 videos, 21 videos, I could do at most a video about any given team once every week and a half. So during the off season, if I still do the 3 to 4 videos a day, there could be a video for any given team every 10 days. That's my goal. So thank you for sticking with me. Fantastic weekend so far for me. And I am still full from last night at Brodeurs. So that's impressive that I really haven't eaten anything, and it's been almost a day since I was there. So bravo, tip of the hat. And thanks for watching. I'll talk to you all again soon.